Well, ignore the camera. It's actually pointed at me, not you.
Makes sense.
But I'm doing that on purpose. I get to coach and consult, and so I'm going to be sharing with some of my clients. But if you would like a copy of this after, I can send you the link and you can have it after, so you don't have to get so focused about missing anything or taking notes that way. But thanks. My name is Zach, coder. I've been in St. George for about 9 years, and before that we lived in Cedar City. We do not miss the white stuff at all, at all, at all. I don't care that it's 110 degrees. I'd much prefer that than the white stuff. I've been doing digital marketing for about 8 years. It started just me and my wife, and now we kind of have a team behind us, and we love helping and giving back. And so, anyway, that's why I'm here today, to help. I hope the title wasn't offensive to anybody, but let's unsuck your site today, okay? And let's kind of crack some of the mystery behind a term SEO. If I say SEO, do you know what I'm referring to? Raise your hand if you know what SEO is. Okay, cool. For those who don't, it's okay. It just means search engine optimization. To make it really just simple, when you do a search on Google and you are looking for something, there's a reason that the websites populate the way they do. There's a reason that that website is at the top of page 1. There's a reason that, you know that little map that shows up? And then there's like the 3 businesses next to it? It's called the Google Business Profile. There's a reason that those are there. And it's based on math and a few very basic principles. And that's what we're going to talk about today, okay? The things you need to do to SEO or unsuck your site, to search, to make sure that your site appears better when someone does a search so they can find your business. Something like 56% of all clicks go to that top spot. So if you're number 1 in that top spot, you're going to get more than half the traffic, and then it just jumps down as you go down. The best place to hide a dead body is page 2 of Google. Nobody goes there, right? So you really want to be competitive, and so there's some basic things you can do. A lot of companies, like if you've had your website built or you built your website, a lot of companies just don't understand that. A lot of small businesses don't understand some of the simple things you can do. So we're going to go through some of them today, okay? It might get a little technical. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible, but there's some basic things. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about the top 10 things that you can do. And again, if you would like, I've got a document prepared for you, so you don't have to take a bunch of notes, and afterwards you can tell me and I will email you that document so you can have all, okay? There's 2 things. There's called On Page SEO and Off Page SEO. Off Page is a lot more technical, and we're not going to dive into that. But today we're going to do stuff that you all can do. If you have login credentials to get into the back end of your website, everything we do today you can do on your own. Everything. It doesn't have to be terribly complicated, okay? So you ready? Okay, who's feeling brave? Because what I'd love to do with you is turn on my computer. And yeah, you were right on that, man. Okay.
Yeah, we're already here. Might as well get something out of it, right?
Fantastic. That's, you bet. As a matter of fact, we're going to do a live audit of his website right now. If you have a computer and you want to follow along and do everything we do on his site, we can totally do that together. Usually it's something I charge for, but just for being here today is my way of saying thanks for letting me be here. I will do a website audit of any of your websites today. Okay, and there'll be a chance at the end where you can just send me your name, your information, so I can send it to you and your website. We'll do I'll do a website audit for you. Just to say thanks. Okay, make sense? What's your name?
My name's Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. Okay, let's go. All right, you ready? I'm going to be just using the computer, so I hope that's okay. But what's your website?
It is sunhomes, sunhomes.io.
Okay. What do you do?
So what we do is we do mainly solar right now just because it's the most accessible, but we also do a complete swath of off-grid utilities. So we do solar and battery, we do geothermal systems, we do well drilling, septic, we do solar thermal systems. So everything you need to make an off-grid home or development.
Fantastic. Fantastic. It's a big industry right now, right? It's a big industry.
Yeah, we're trying to push that.
Okay, cool. Here's the good news. I know that recently I just did, I had a client approach and want some help. St. George is still not as competitive as some of the big boys, so there is some room here to improve your site and
Yeah.
to rank. There are some SEO companies in town, definitely, but some of their sites are good and some of them not so good. And I won't name names, so don't ask. Okay, so there we go. All right. Okay, if you want to write this down, I'm going to say it a million times. Content is king. Google is a robot. It has an algorithm. It has all these little checkboxes, and I like to just compare it into popularity points. When someone does a search for solar in St. George, Google is going to go out and pull all of these, anything that has to do with solar, and it's going to rank them. And that's how you get ranked, right? And the more of the checkboxes you can fill out for Google, the better it is, right? So content is king. What you put on your site, because Google is a robot, it doesn't care what your site looks like. It can be the ugliest. I'm not a design guy. I will tell you that right off the bat. If you hire me to build your site, I will outsource the design. I'm totally going to outsource the design. I build ugly websites. But Google doesn't care. It's a robot. It doesn't have feelings. It's not like, oh, that evokes a certain, I don't know. It doesn't care. Design is important. Of course it is, because your users are going to look at it, and if it's a terrible, ugly website, they might go, ugh, next. Right? Sure, it gives off, for users. But if you're just talking about ranking, content is king. So what you put on your site is going to matter. Okay? Here's what I mean when I say content is king. Aim for 1,500 words. One of my least favorite things and favorite things, I always smile when a client hires me to say, rank my website. I say, okay, are you going to trust me to rank your website? Yes, I am. Okay, then I'm going to rank your website. And I build them a website, and they come back and they're like, there's so many words. I'm like, what'd you hire me to do? Yeah, rank your site. So I'm doing it. Oh, but it just looks cluttered. There's so many words. And first of all, I'm like, no, it doesn't look cluttered. I've designed it well enough. They're like, I just want less words. I'm like, cool. Thanks for the money. Your site's not going to rank. Content is king. If you're one of those business owners who's like, no, I don't want a lot of words on my page, then you don't want to rank your site. I don't know how to say that any clearer. I've said it 3 different ways. Content is aim for 1,500 words on your page. Okay? That's the first thing. So let's just do a little word count.
Well, prepare to be disappointed.
15 words.
Maybe 16.
Okay, so what do we need to do right off the bat? We're going to add some content. Now, here's where you make it very simple when we say content. Well, what kind of content do I put on there? Think like a user. Think like keywords. It's what SEO, a big term is keywords. In other words, I'm someone who's sitting at my house later with my wife and we're complaining about our electric bill. And so I'm starting to think about solar. What are some things you guys would type in if you wanted to know more about solar power?
Cost.
Cost.
Affordable.
Affordable.
Components.
Components. Efficient.
Professional.
Professional. These are the words now we're going to start building on our page, right? Okay, does that make sense? Google does a lot of the work for us. Let me show you what I mean. When I talk about keywords, if you guys are like, I don't know what to put on the page, just do a Google search for solar power in St. George and watch what Google does. It's so helpful. First of all, you can tell cost is huge, right? If you see Google doing something, you do it on your site too. Okay? You do it on your site. A solar savings estimator. We build those. It's easy. It's an easy plugin to put in there. You can put a savings estimator right on your site, and that would be some really good content, right? And above it, guess what you put? These exact words, solar savings estimator, or solar savings calculator, or something like that. Does that make sense? We're feeding Google what Google wants, and what the people want, all right? Okay? If we scroll down, look at this. This right here is Google giving you SEO for free. I would put that exact question on my website. If you do not have an FAQ, a frequently asked question, on your website, you are missing out on a huge opportunity to get easy content on your page. And it does a couple things. One, you're putting content on your page that Google wants. But two, how many of you have ever asked Siri a question, does that make sense, to get you to a website? This is capitalizing on what we call voice search. So when someone says, hey, how much does it cost to, hey, Siri, how much does it cost to groom my pet? That question put on your website, because if the competition doesn't have an FAQ already, that's an exact question. So use those. I would put the FAQ right on your site and have an FAQ section with those, okay? And a drop down. Now look, let me tell you one thing, okay? Pay close attention to this. You could copy that question, but do not copy that content. Here's what you can do. You can copy this whole paragraph and then reword it. If you put the same content as another website on your site, Google will actually penalize your site. It's called duplicate content, and Google hates it. Don't just go out and copy paste from another website or even Google, but you can switch it up, right? And just switch up the words a little bit, right? Like something like this, like, here's what we've learned from Utah. The average person, when they get something installed, solar panel installation, it can range anywhere from around 11,000 to around 17,000. Does that make sense? We're just rewording content, spinning the content a little bit, and putting it on our site. Already, right off the bat, having these questions on there, you're literally going to like 10x the content on your site. Does that make sense? We good? Do you think you can do that in your industry? Just do a really simple Google search and see what Google gives you. Here's another one. Scroll to the bottom of a Google search. Guess what Google is literally telling us?
Like other keywords, other searches.
People who search that also search for this. Guess what I'm going to do? This is what I'm putting on my site. And I'm going to have a whole paragraph about Dixie Power not metering. And the paragraph might look like this. Hey, did you hear Dixie Power doesn't meter? Google is telling me what it wants. If I just give Google what it wants, Google's going to give me what I want, which is a better ranking. Does that make sense? I hope that I'm demystifying search engine optimization a little bit for you. It's mostly just common sense. It's a lot of work, and most of you don't have time to do it maybe, but it doesn't have to be way technical. Content is
King.
there it is, okay. I'm going to pause and ask if there's any questions. Good? Okay.
Well, I actually have a question.
Please.
So I'm trying to understand why content is king. Why is content king?
Because Google's a robot, and so here's what it does. When you do a search for solar power, Google's like, okay, well, here are the 30 solar power companies in this general area, within a 10-mile radius. So let me serve them up to you. If we can't find enough, we'll go outside, right? Well, here's what it does. It goes to all of those websites and it looks at them and it says, this one it has the word solar power on the page once. This one has solar power on the page 10 times. Which would you give popularity points to? 1 or 10?
Well, I guess 10, but it all depends if it's gobbledygook.
Don't make it gobbledygook. Make it really good content. In the 90s or the early 2000s, you could get away with that. You'd see like old pages and they just spam keywords. And like literally the content on the page was just a bunch of random keywords. That doesn't fly anymore. But if you make your content good, that's a very good point. Make your content good. And when I say good, here's what I'm talking about, right? Like having a paragraph about what Google wants, right? Is that okay? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it's sort of, I mean, I don't really understand, I haven't researched search engines and how they search. So I don't have that background
Gotcha.
to totally get, but I get what you're saying, of course.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, all algorithms, whether it's DuckDuckGo, whether it's Bing, especially Google, content is king and always will be. That is one thing that has not changed since the internet. Like content has always been an important part of it. So you're right, make it really good content, readable content. We're gonna try to get our keywords and our city. So there's the next thing you can do. Make sure you mention your city as well, not just solar power, but solar power in St. George, right? Your keyword and your location. Now, a word of caution. Don't overthink this, and we don't want to keyword stuff. This would be a bad paragraph. Solar power in St. George is wonderful for St. George solar power. If you don't have solar power in St. George, then your St. George solar power isn't going to be very solar panel-y. Google is a robot, but it's as close as AI as we've got. It can read that and go and penalize your site because you're keyword stuffing. If you play the game too close, Google gets angry, okay? But a normal paragraph would be like, hey, if you're wondering how much it costs to install solar panels in St. George, we've got great news for you. Insert name of company here. SunPower are an affordable, professional, efficient solar panel installers. That's readable, that's natural way of saying a thing. Does that make sense? Are we good? Thank you for making that point. We don't want gobbledygook. We want it to be good content. Here and then there.
Yes, when you said 1,500 words, are we talking 1,500 words on the main page?
Main page.
Or the whole site?
Main page. And I'll get into inner pages in a minute.
Drop down to just the main page.
And I'm going to give you some more examples of that. You putting an FAQ on there is easily going to get you 200 or 300 words. Easily.
Rather than a drop down.
So an FAQ, when you say drop down, do you mean the top of the page or within the page? Yeah, not that. Just on the main page, putting an FAQ. And it will drop down a little bit, but there'll be a paragraph there, and a paragraph there, and a paragraph there, and a paragraph there, right? You're getting between 50 and 100 words per paragraph. So there's 300, 400, 500 words. It's pretty easy and natural. And it's a way for those of you who are design-centered brain, and you're like, I just don't want a lot of pages. Well, you can hide all that content in the drop-down, right? On the page. Does that make sense? And that's an easy way to get some good keywords. Thank you. Great question. Did I answer it?
Yep. So his website ends in .io,
Uh-huh.
and I'm always a little bit iffy when things don't end in .com or, so is there some kind of rating system for websites that you should trust?
.com is always probably traditionally, it's been the norm, right? But there are some that like .io is actually a pretty common tech one that a lot of people are comfortable with. You're right, you might get some people who are like, what's a .io? And that might throw up a red flag for them. Here's what I would do, just a suggestion.
I'm all
If
ears.
sunpower.com isn't taken, buy sunpower.com and do a really simple redirect. That's so easy. You can buy 10 different URLs and have them all directed at sunpower.io. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if that one's not that way, when some people who are maybe like, they don't understand the .io, they're like, I know it was SunPower. That's what we all default to, right? .com, and they can go sunpower.com, and it'll just redirect to sunpower.io.
What does IO mean?
I don't know. What does IO mean?
I'll tell you if I do.
Internet. Oh, you know what? I have some free Google searches left for the month. Let's just okay. British Indian Ocean Territory.
Yeah,
I don't feel bad for not knowing that anymore. I was like, oh, that makes me a bad marketer, but I don't know that.
I guess we're headquartered in the British side of the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, right. Certain industries do have certain
Input, output.
input output. That's probably, I think that one's, I don't know. Is that what that's what that is? 'Cause I'm like, that doesn't seem right. There we go.
It is input.
Input output. Okay, there we go. Probably more tech heavy. Like he was saying, some industries tend to rely more on those instead of .coms, .ios. Is that okay? Thank you.
Is that the power symbol also, but not like through a zero or line?
I don't know. That's a good question. Like you're talking like power meters, like electricity?
No, just like a,
Oh, coding and stuff?
no, just like a TV or a appliance.
Oh yeah. Maybe. Well, there we go. Cool. Any other questions? Okay. Let's talk about a little bit, some more ways to add some content on your site really easy. Okay. What do you say you offer?
Off-grid utilities.
Okay, so like you gave a bunch of different things that you do. What do you do?
So we do solar, do geothermal.
When you say solar, what do you mean?
Specifically solar and battery backing up the entire home, like
Okay.
not your typical solar, but complete
Okay.
independent power.
So, my recommendation, again, let's think basic, let's think simple. What do you want to be found for most? You think about your business and if you offer 10 services, but there's one, that's one of the first things we always ask. What are your top 2 or 3 money makers? Those are the things that you're gonna put at the top of your page. Yes, the order in which you put things on the page matters to Google, right? That seems pretty easy to remember. So if I want to be selling, if I'm in geothermal and solar, but I want my company to be found and I want to sell more solar panels, then what I want to do is up here at the top of the page, this is called the fold. The fold, okay, on a website, it's basically before you have to scroll, okay? So that break point before you have to scroll is called the fold. You want to put things as close to the fold as possible that you want to be found for, right? This is a really nice header, it's really great. But if we can somehow get right here, net zero affordable self-powered homes, that's actually a pretty good keyword because it tells what you do. But if I want to be known more for solar panels, I'm going to put net zero affordable solar panel. I want that keyword in there. I want that content to reflect up there, right? And then as I scroll down,